The strategies we talk about, they fall into two main categories. One are place-based strategies, which I think you all have been talking a lot about this week. These are strategies concerned with increasing investments in segregated African American communities, where the lack of investments and resources are a direct result of government policy and government-sponsored segregation. So to remedy the impacts of that government policy, we want to increase investments and resources in those communities, make those areas of high opportunity. Now, we also understand that often when that happens, like Dr. Williams alluded to earlier, when you increase investments in a lower income community, often people with higher incomes suddenly become interested in living there. We call this gentrification. They move in, drive up the housing costs, and the longtime residents of that community are displaced and have to leave their neighborhood just when it starts to see an increase in investment. So we couple these place-based strategies with anti-displacement strategies to prevent some of the displacement that can occur when investments and resources increase. So some of these strategies have to do with rent control, so limiting how quickly rent can rise in those areas, because often when gentrification is happening, landlords will just jack up rents to get their lower paying tenants out to bring higher paying tenants in. So protections for renters against that kind of activity. Also, just cause eviction ordinances. Again, this is another locally passed law that requires or prohibits landlords from evicting tenants except for a just cause, like failure to pay rent or massive property damage. So they can't just kick people out because they have a higher paying tenant wanting to move in. A right to counsel program, again, this is a locally passed program that funds attorneys to represent lower income tenants who are facing evictions. Oftentimes, tenants who are facing an eviction don't have access to legal representation. Their landlords do. They usually have no recourse in court to defend themselves or to stay in their units unless they have access to free legal representation, which a right to counsel program can provide them. And it changes the balance of power a lot in those courtrooms. Another policy is inclusionary zoning, another locally passed policy by cities or counties that requires when new housing is built in an area, a certain percentage of the units have to be sold or rented at affordable prices. So that's a way of ensuring that when new development is happening in an area, at least some of the new units are affordable to the longtime residents of that community. Now we go a little further and argue that those new units, affordable units created, should have some preferences put on them to ensure that the people who actually live in that community and are at risk of displacement have access to those units.